speaking of favorites, it's time to break down who Bo and I thought our favorite picks in the draft. Not necessarily who's going to be the best, but some of our favorite picks. And I will be honest, when I saw your list compared to mine, I felt like I cheated slightly because I went chalk after MHJ. We weren't allowed to pick Marvin Harrison Jr. on our favorites list, Bo. Let's go ahead and put it on the screen. I just went with the next three picks, and I promise you it just worked out this way. We talked about my love affair with Darius Robinson. The more I found out about Max Melton, the more that had Jonathan Gannon's fingerprints and DNA all over it. When I saw Max Melton celebrate with his family, guy looks like a dog, ready to compete. And then, of course, Trey Benson. I mean, that was my favorite pick in general on day two. The physicality he's going to impose opposite James Conner. I just really like what the Cardinals did after Marvin Harrison Jr. It's not a knock on the rest of their picks, Bo, but I just thought they got extreme talent. Those are three starters eventually. I mean, Robinson and Melton are going to start right away, and Trey Benson's going to start, you would assume, at times this year and in 2025. So this is why the Cardinals got an A draft, because outside of Marvin Harrison Jr., you can see the immediate impact coming from these early picks.
Yeah, absolutely. And Max Melton is the one player that we both had on our list. And I think it was one guy that we couldn't avoid. You know, it was somehow a polarizing pick when it happened. Some of the fan base thought it was a reach, and who they passed out of drafting at 35th overall and traded down to select Melton in the 40s there, where you look at his game and how he can fit into Jonathan Gannon and Nick Rawlis' scheme. And I'll talk to Nick on Wednesday when he holds his post-draft press conference and how Melton fits in. But also, you know, he's after your own heart, Johnny, by wearing that Darth Vader mask. I mean,
love it.
He was just pandering just to you and your fellow nerds. But I like his size, sub 4'4", 40, just as athletic as they come. Wasn't he the guy with a 40.5-inch vert?
Yeah.
Do you like that? Do you just like an absolute just athlete out there that can play the corner position and play opposite, Murphy Bunting? It's going to be immediate upgrade at the cornerback position. And then I really like Taylor Demerson, like just coming out of Texas Tech, a ball hawking safety, a guy that down the road could potentially start for this team, but also adds depth. Like we saw last season, Jalen Thompson and Budda Baker both missed time, and you were filling it in with, admirably by Kayvon Wallace and Shashere. But I think you got a guy immediately in Taylor Demerson that can start into that role and do some of the things that both Budda and JT do, like at a rookie 5th round level. But they got him at a 4th round level. I really like him coming out of Texas Tech. And then I've got Christian Jones down here as my player 3. He was a 5th round pick, and Daniel Jeremiah had him as a top 60 player. Mel Kiper had him as a top 100 player, and the Arizona Cardinals got him at 162, 163 is unreal value there for a guy that Monty Ossenfort at the end of training camp flipped Josh Jones to the Houston Texans for a 5th round pick, and everybody was up in arms. But what he did in getting Christian Jones in here was he got a younger, more controllable player with more upside than Josh Jones, who proved to be the guy who we thought he was, right? At the best, a swing tackle, where I think Christian Jones comes in, being swing tackle potential already with starting potential down the line. That's why I've got him on my list as one of my 3 favorite Cardinal draft picks.
Yeah, it was a great tweet by you earlier today. I didn't put 2 and 2 together that's where the pick it came from. And we were tipped off early in this draft process that, like, if it wasn't going to be Marvin, man, they really wanted to take advantage of this offensive line class. And I think they did, but like early, like a premier offensive lineman, one in the top 20 to 25 picks, right? And the board didn't fall that way. They had to take Marvin for obvious reasons. And then there wasn't a tackle of note that could be available at 27. Plus they needed a defensive tackle. Like, you weren't going to fill all your needs, although they got close in a singular draft. But yeah, the player that I didn't include that I would have was Christian Jones. I thought that was one of my favorite picks on day 3, somebody that 48 starts at the University of Texas, somebody that, we just talked to Illinois' offensive coordinator, and you talk to Coach Looney, and it's like Christian Jones fits that mindset the same with, Isaiah Adams and Tip Raymond. They all have the same characteristics. Like, really, outside of Paris, who is as polished of a tackle, I think, entering this year, Pro Bowl caliber season as a pass and run blocker, everybody else in this group, it's like we are a run first system in Arizona. Adams, Raymond, Christian Jones, right? We know what Yelda Froholt does well, and Will Hernandez can do a little bit of both, and Jonah Williams has his strengths, but it's like the pipeline players that they are trying to implement, they are not finesse players. Like they are players that you can plug in and get you 3 yards in a cloud of dust, so to speak. Like that gets you fired up because I've seen so many sloppy tackles and sloppy offensive linemen that this team has drafted, not only under Steve Keim, but Rod Graves included. It's like day 3 tackle, let's throw them in there. Horrific technique, no starting experience of note. Sometimes they're overweight. Like Christian Jones, everybody said, like dominated the offseason. Somebody that's overlooked for whatever reason, top 100 grade. If Daniel Jeremiah had him as a top 60 player on his board. So we're going to talk about it, but Kelvin Beachum, that's a problem. Like I think they'll carry maybe 4, but if not, like Christian Jones can get the benefit of the doubt. He's on a cheap 4-year rookie contract. If he puts together a competent training camp and mini camp, that could be all she wrote.
Yeah. Look, I like what Nico Hoffman says. Chris Braswell of Alabama said that Jones was his toughest matchup this season when Bama took on Texas. So, I mean, that's fantastic insight there. But when you remember what was coming out of Cards camp when they drafted Josh Jones, what was it, 72nd overall, and Steve Keim was like, we had him rated as a first-round pick, and that got the fan base hype, and then Josh Jones turned into who he was. But if that's, what Chris Jones turns into as a 5th-round pick, that's fine.
Yeah.
But when you're trying to pawn him off as something he's not, but I think he's somebody that they were able to swoop in and take advantage of him tumbling down draft boards for some reason. And we'll get more insight, from Petzing tomorrow and his thoughts on the Texas tackle.
I love this comment here. Smart ass Lou T. Johnny also loves Homer Simpson, Michael Scott, vanilla ice cream, and sunny days because my list was so chalk. I'll take that insult. I put that list together knowing like this is going to get pushback. I like the early picks. I think the early picks slapped, as the kids say. Slap it up, baby. And I also looked at Lou T. Marvin is young. He's 21. He'll be 22 during the season. Everybody else, for the most part, Darius is 22, will be 23, are older. What does that tell you? They're ready to play. Yeah. They're ready to play as rookies. There are no redshirt seasons. First of all, the Cardinals need them to play because of the state of this roster. Don't you just love a team that embraces young players? Like Dante Stills is a known commodity. He was a 6th-round pick last year. Michael Wilson, right? Keitrell Clark. We know what these guys were and what they could potentially become. Garrett Williams. If you don't think this whole rookie class, we said it after the post-draft last year, Bo, these rookies are going to get the benefit of the doubt, especially over lingering Keim guys. They are going to come in cheap and experienced and hungry for a team that won 4 games, albeit without their quarterback. That's good news. If you're a rookie in this class, you have a role. As my co-host says, if you're active on game day, you will have a role. There are no throwaway picks in Amani Ossenford draft. We can say that now unequivocally through 2 drafts.